Wren Gallagher had been searching for her father for 19 years. She'd started at 6, when her mother died and left behind nothing but a photograph and 3 whispered words: "Find your father." She'd continued through foster care, through group homes, through the grinding poverty of a life built on minimum wage and maximum stubbornness. Every spare dollar went to searches, databases, private investigators who took her money and delivered nothing. Now, at 25, she'd finally found him. Or so she thought. The restaurant was the kind of place Wren had only seen in movies. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, waiters who probably made more in tips than she made in a week at the hospice center. She'd spent her last $40 on a dress from Goodwill and shoes that pinched her feet, because you couldn't walk into a place like this looking like you'd crawled out of a double shift. She didn't have a reservation, didn't have a plan beyond the photograph burning a hole in her thrift store clutch. "I'm sorry, miss." The hostess's smile was polite and immovable. "We're fully booked this evening. Perhaps if you'd like to make a reservation for next month." "I need to see Nico Caruso." The smile flickered. Something sharp moved behind the hostess's eyes. "Mr. Caruso doesn't take unsolicited meetings." "He'll take this one." Wren's voice was steady. Years of delivering hard news to dying patients had taught her how to sound calm when her heart was racing. "Tell him a woman is here with a photograph he needs to see. Tell him it's about Elena Gallagher." The name landed like a stone in Stillwater. The hostess's expression didn't change, but her hand moved to an invisible button beneath the podium. "Wait here." Wren waited. Around her, wealthy people ate expensive food and laughed expensive laughs, oblivious to the girl in the second-hand dress who was about to blow up her entire life. She thought about her grandmother, alone in the hospice facility Wren could barely afford, slipping further into dementia with each passing day. She thought about the photograph, studied so many times the edges had worn soft. She thought about the face in that photograph: dark hair, strong jaw, eyes that looked like they could see through walls. The same face that appeared from the back of the restaurant, flanked by men who moved like shadows. Nico Caruso was taller than she'd expected, broader. The photograph was 25 years old, faded and creased, but she could see the boy he'd been in the man he'd become. Same eyes, same sharp cheekbones, same mouth. Though it had learned to be harder in the intervening decades. He stopped 3 feet from her, and Wren felt the weight of his attention like a physical force. "You mentioned Elena Gallagher." His voice was low, controlled. "I don't know that name." "You knew her." Wren opened her clutch, pulled out the photograph. "She was my mother. She died 19 years ago. And before she died, she told me to find my father." She held out the photograph. Nico took it, looked at it, and went completely, utterly still. The silence stretched between them like a wire about to snap. Wren watched emotions flicker across his face: confusion, recognition, something that might have been shock, before his expression locked down into unreadable stone. "Where did you get this?" His voice was different now. Dangerous. "It was my mother's. She kept it with her until the day she died," she said. Wren's voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. "She said it was a picture of my father, that I should find him when I was old enough." Nico looked at the photograph again, then at her, then back at the photograph. "This is a newspaper clipping from 26 years ago, a society page piece about my family's charity gala." His eyes met hers, and she couldn't read what she saw there. "The man in this photograph is me, Miss Gallagher. I was 9 years old when it was taken." "Then I'm not your father." The words hit her like a physical blow. She'd been so certain, had built her entire life around this moment, this meeting, this man who was supposed to fill the hollow space that had ached inside her for as long as she could remember. "But the photograph," my mother said. "I don't know why your mother had this photograph." Nico's voice softened, just slightly. But I can assure you, I never knew anyone named Elena Gallagher. I never had a relationship with any woman 25 years ago. I was a child. He paused. And I'm not your father. Wren's legs threatened to give out. The room blurred around her, the elegant restaurant dissolving into watercolor smears of light and sound. Then why? Her voice was barely a whisper. Why would she tell me to find you? I don't know. She was dying. She had nothing left to give me but that photograph and those words. She wouldn't have lied. She wouldn't have. The tears came without permission, streaking down her face. I've spent 19 years looking for you. I've spent every dollar I had trying to find you. And you're telling me it was all for nothing? Something shifted in Nico's expression. A crack in the stone, quickly sealed. Nico. A new voice, warm and weathered, came from behind him. Bring the girl to the back. Now. An elderly woman emerged from the shadows. Silver hair, sharp eyes, the particular grace of someone who had been beautiful once and hadn't forgotten it. She moved toward Wren with surprising speed, taking her hands, studying her face with an intensity that made Wren want to step back. Madonna mia, the woman breathed. You have her eyes. Elena's eyes. You knew my mother? I knew her. The old woman's hands tightened on Wren's. Briefly, many years ago. But I never forgot her face. She turned to Nico, something urgent in her expression. We need to talk. Privately. This girl is in danger she doesn't understand. Mama. Now, Nico, before it's too late. The back office was paneled in dark wood, lined with photographs of men who looked like Nico in varying degrees. A family history written in faces, hard eyes, sharp jaws, the particular bearing of people who commanded empires. Wren sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than her annual salary and tried to stop shaking. My name is Lucia Caruso, the elderly woman said, settling across from her. I am Nico's mother, and I knew yours, Wren. Briefly, but well enough to remember. How? She came to us. Lucia's eyes were distant, seeing the past. 26 years ago. She was young, younger than you are now, and she was terrified. She'd witnessed something. A crime. A murder. She'd seen a man kill his own brother, and she knew if he discovered she'd seen, he would kill her too. Wren's breath caught. Who? Who did she see? A man named Victor Corsetti. Lucia's voice hardened. One of the most dangerous men in the city. He killed his brother to take control of their family's operations. Your mother saw it happen. She came to us, to my husband, begging for protection. And did you protect her? A long silence. Lucia's hands folded in her lap, knuckles white. We tried. We arranged for her to disappear. New identity, new city, new life. She was supposed to be safe. The old woman's voice cracked. But Victor had eyes everywhere. Someone talked, leaked her location. We never found out who. She met Wren's eyes. She ran again before we could relocate her. Disappeared. We thought she was dead. She survived for 6 more years, Wren whispered. Long enough to have me. Long enough to raise me until I was 6. Then she got sick and... She stopped. Breathed. Pneumonia, they said. But she was terrified until the end. Kept looking at the door like she expected someone to come through it. Victor. Lucia's face was grim. She was hiding from him. All those years, running and hiding and looking over her shoulder. But why the photograph? Nico spoke for the first time since they'd entered the office. He was leaning against the desk, arms crossed, watching Wren with an expression she couldn't decode. Why did she have a picture of me? Why tell her daughter to find me? Because she trusted us. Lucia's voice softened. Because we were the only people who'd ever tried to help her. She knew that if her daughter ever needed protection, truly needed it, she could come to the Caruso family. She looked at Ren. The photograph wasn't of your father, child. It was a message. A key. She knew that if you showed up with proof that you were connected to us, we would help you the way we tried to help her. Then who is my father? The silence that followed was heavy enough to choke on. We don't know, Lucia admitted. Elena never told us. Never even hinted that she was pregnant. She disappeared before. She stopped. Something dark crossed her face. Before we knew. There's another possibility? Nico's voice was carefully neutral. One we should consider. Nico. She needs to know, Mama. He pushed off from the desk, moving to crouch in front of Ren's chair. This close, she could see the faint lines around his eyes, the weight of responsibilities she couldn't imagine. Victor Corsetti, the man who killed his brother. The man your mother was running from. His jaw tightened. There were rumors back then that he had appetites, that women who worked for him or witnessed his crimes didn't always escape with just their lives. Ren felt the blood drain from her face. You think I think it's possible that your mother wasn't just running because of what she saw. Nico's voice was gentle now, impossibly gentle for a man who looked like he could kill without blinking. I think she may have been running because of what he did to her, and I think you might be the result. The world tilted. Ren gripped the arms of the chair, fighting the urge to scream or vomit or both. Victor Corsetti might be my father? We don't know for certain. But if he is... Nico stood, his expression hardening. If he is, and if he discovers you exist, your life is in danger. Victor doesn't leave loose ends, doesn't leave witnesses, and he definitely doesn't leave illegitimate children who could threaten his position. What do I do? The words came out broken. I have nothing. No money, no protection, no one. My grandmother is dying in a hospice facility I can barely afford. I work 60 hours a week just to keep her comfortable. I don't know how to... You come with us. Lucia rose, crossing to take Ren's hands. You stay at our estate, under our protection, until we can determine the truth. We owed your mother a debt. We failed her once. We won't fail her daughter. I can't just disappear. My grandmother will be moved to a private facility, the best in the city, round-the-clock care, every comfort she could need. Nico's voice left no room for argument. This isn't charity, Ren. This is obligation. My family promised to protect your mother. We failed. The least we can do is keep that promise to you. Ren looked between them, this dangerous man and his elegant mother, offering salvation she hadn't known she needed from a threat she hadn't known existed. Why should I trust you? She asked. I don't know you. For all I know, this is another trap. You shouldn't trust us. Nico's honesty was unexpected, refreshing. You have no reason to, but you also have no other options. Victor Corsetti will learn you exist, if he hasn't already. When he does, he'll send people to silence you. You can face that alone, or you can let us help. It wasn't really a choice. It was a recognition of reality, harsh and unforgiving and terrifyingly clear. Okay, Ren whispered. I'll come with you. Nico nodded, something like respect flickering in his dark eyes. Welcome to the family, Ren Gallagher. Let's hope we can keep you alive long enough to find the truth. And Ren, who had spent 19 years searching for a father, found herself praying she hadn't just found a monster instead. The Caruso estate was everything Ren's life had never been. She'd grown up in apartments where the heat didn't work, and the walls were thin enough to hear neighbors fighting. She'd slept in group homes with 12 other girls, guarding her few possessions like a dragon protecting gold. She'd lived in studio apartments the size of closets, working double shifts just to afford ramen and rent. This was something else entirely. The estate sprawled across acres of manicured grounds, a stone manor that looked like it had been transplanted from Italian countryside. Gardens burst with late summer flowers. A fountain splashed in the circular drive. Staff moved through hallways with quiet efficiency, anticipating needs before they were voiced. Her room alone was larger than any apartment she'd ever rented. A four-poster bed draped in silk. Windows that overlooked gardens she could have gotten lost in. A bathroom with a tub deep enough to drown in, and products she couldn't pronounce. She stood in the center of it all and felt like an imposter wearing borrowed skin. It's overwhelming, I know. Ren spun. Lucia stood in the doorway, a gentle smile softening her sharp features. I felt the same way when I first came here. I was a baker's daughter from Naples. My hands were rough from kneading dough. I thought they'd made a mistake, that someone would realize I didn't belong and throw me out. What happened? I learned that belonging isn't about where you came from. Lucia crossed to the window, her gaze distant. It's about who claims you. And this family claimed me, rough hands and all. Ren's throat tightened. I'm not family. You're Elena's daughter. That makes you family enough. Lucia turned back to face her. Your mother saved my husband's life once. Did you know that? Before she witnessed Victor's crime, she was a waitress at one of our restaurants. There was an assassination attempt. She saw the gunman before anyone else did. Knocked the drink from my husband's hand before he could drink the poison. Her eyes glistened. We owed her everything, and we failed her. You tried to help her. Trying isn't enough when someone dies. Lucia's voice was fierce. Your mother deserved better. You deserve better. And I intend to make sure you get it. The first week taught Ren that safety was a luxury she'd never been able to afford. She slept through the night, actually slept, without one ear listening for danger, without the bone-deep exhaustion of perpetual vigilance. She ate meals that didn't come from cans or fast food windows. She walked through gardens without calculating escape routes, sat in libraries without watching the doors. Her grandmother was moved to a private facility on the third day. Ren visited as soon as it was arranged, bracing herself for institutional sterility, for the smell of antiseptic and despair she knew too well from her own workplace. Instead, she found a sun-drenched room with fresh flowers on the nightstand, a private nurse who knew her grandmother's name, a garden visible through wide windows where butterflies danced among roses. Her grandmother didn't recognize her, hadn't recognized her in months, but she smiled at the butterflies and hummed a song Ren remembered from childhood. This is too much, Ren said to Nico, who had insisted on accompanying her. The cost alone is irrelevant. He stood by the window, watching the garden with an expression she couldn't read. Your grandmother is comfortable. That's what matters. Why do you care? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. I told you. My family made a promise to your mother. That's not enough. Ren stepped closer, forcing him to meet her eyes. People don't do this. Don't spend this kind of money, take this kind of risk, just because of a 25-year-old promise. What aren't you telling me? Something flickered in his dark gaze. Respect, maybe. Or surprise that she'd pushed back. Victor Corsetti killed my father. The words landed like stones in still water. What? 3 years ago. A car bomb. They said it was an accident, but I knew better. His jaw tightened. I've been building a case against him ever since, gathering evidence, turning his people, waiting for the right moment to destroy him. And I'm... What? A weapon? You're a witness. His eyes met hers, and the intensity there made her breath catch. If Victor is your father, if your mother was assaulted by him, that's a crime. That's evidence. That's one more nail in the coffin I've been building. He paused. But that's not why I'm helping you? Then why? Because when you walked into my restaurant, Terrified and desperate and determined, you reminded me of someone. His voice softened. My sister. She died when she was 20. Wrong place, wrong time, caught in crossfire meant for someone else. She had the same look you have, like she was fighting battles no one else could see. Ren didn't know what to say. The grief in his voice was raw, barely healed. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be careful. He turned back to the window. Victor will learn you exist. It's only a matter of time, and when he does, he'll come for you. I intend to be ready. The days settled into a rhythm Ren hadn't expected. Mornings, she visited her grandmother, watching for moments of clarity that came less and less frequently, holding weathered hands and singing the old songs her grandmother had taught her mother had taught her. She'd learned years ago that presence mattered more than recognition, that love didn't require being remembered. Afternoons she spent with Lucia. The older woman had taken her under her wing with fierce determination, teaching her the history of the family, the dynamics of their world, the 1,000 small rules that governed life among people who operated outside the law. You're a quick study, Lucia observed one afternoon, watching Ren navigate a conversation with one of Nico's lieutenants. You read people well. I work in hospice care. You learn to see what people aren't saying, the fears they won't voice, the goodbyes they can't face. Ren shrugged. Dying strips away pretense. You learn to look beneath the surface. That's a valuable skill in our world. Lucia's eyes were thoughtful. People lie constantly here, about their loyalties, their intentions, their threats. Someone who can see through the masks could be useful, could be essential. Evenings were harder. Evenings meant dinner with the family. Nico at the head of the table, his men scattered throughout. Conversation flowing in Italian she was slowly learning to follow. She felt like an exhibit, constantly watched, constantly evaluated. But Nico's eyes on her felt different than the others. Less assessment, more something she couldn't name, something that made her skin warm and her pulse quicken. You're staring, she said one night, catching him watching her across the table. I'm observing. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. There's a difference. Is there? Staring is rude, observing is professional. And which am I? The smile deepened, just slightly. A mystery, one I'm still trying to solve. That night, Ren lay in her silk-draped bed and tried to untangle the knot of feelings in her chest. Fear, still, always fear, lurking beneath the surface. Gratitude for the safety she'd been given. Grief for the mother whose secrets she was only now beginning to understand. And something else. Something that sparked when Nico looked at her, when his voice softened, when he stood too close and she forgot to breathe. She couldn't afford to feel this, couldn't afford to complicate an already impossible situation with attraction to a man who might be using her as a pawn in his war. But her heart, it seemed, didn't care what she could afford. It wanted what it wanted. And what it wanted was becoming clearer by the day. The truth came 3 weeks later, delivered in a manila envelope that changed everything. Ren was in the library when Nico found her, curled in an armchair with a book she wasn't really reading, watching rain streak down windows that cost more than her annual salary. She'd grown comfortable here, dangerous as that was. Comfortable with the silk sheets and gourmet meals. Comfortable with Lucia's fierce affection and the staff's quiet kindness. Comfortable with Nico's presence, even when it made her pulse race. We got the results. He stood in the doorway, envelope in hand, his expression carefully blank. The DNA test. Ren's book slipped from her fingers. She'd almost forgotten, had pushed the test to the back of her mind, not wanting to know, not wanting confirmation that her father was a monster. And Victor Corsetti is not your biological father. The relief that crashed through her was so intense, she nearly sobbed. Not his daughter. Not the child of a rapist. Not connected by blood to the man who destroyed her mother's life. Thank God. The words came out broken. I thought, I was so afraid. There's more. Something in his voice made her freeze. She looked up, found his eyes, and saw something she didn't understand. Hesitation, uncertainty, emotions she'd never seen on his face before. What is it? Nico crossed to her chair, crouching in front of her the way he had that first night in the restaurant. Close enough to touch. Close enough that she could see the storm brewing in his dark gaze. The DNA test compared your sample to Victor's. No match. He paused. But there was another match. A partial one, the kind that indicates a close familial relationship. I don't understand. You matched to someone in our database, Ren. Someone we'd tested years ago for an unrelated reason. His jaw tightened. You matched to my father. The world stopped. Your father, she repeated. The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. But your father is dead. Yes. 3 years now. Nico's voice was strained. But we had his DNA on file, and according to the test, he's your father. Which means we're siblings. The word hung between them like a blade. Siblings. Half-siblings, technically. Different mothers, same father. But family, nonetheless. Blood relations. The man she'd been developing feelings for, whose presence made her heart race, whose rare smiles she'd started collecting like precious stones. He was her brother. No. The word tore out of her. That's not possible. My mother never mentioned. She would have told me if... She may not have known who he was. Nico's voice was gentle, devastatingly gentle. My father moved in many circles, used many names. If your mother knew him briefly, before she witnessed Victor's crime. Ren's mind raced backward, reconstructing a history she'd never known. Her mother, young and frightened, working at a Caruso restaurant, meeting a man, charming, powerful, dangerous in ways she couldn't have understood. A brief affair, maybe. A single night. And then witnessing a murder, running for her life, never knowing she carried a Caruso child. She came to your family for help, Ren whispered. After she saw Victor kill his brother, she came here. And my father helped her, arranged her escape, protected her. Nico's eyes were dark with realization. He must have known, or suspected. Why else would he have gone to such lengths for a stranger? He didn't tell her. He may have tried. She disappeared before. He stopped, breathed. We'll never know for certain. But the DNA doesn't lie. You're my sister, Ren. My father's daughter. Your family. Family. The word she'd been chasing her entire life, finally delivered, and in the cruelest possible way. What about... She couldn't finish. Couldn't voice the feeling she'd been nurturing, the hope that had been growing despite her best efforts to suppress it. It doesn't matter now. Nico's voice was rough. He stood, putting distance between them. Whatever I thought I felt, whatever was developing, it can't continue. You're my sister. That changes everything. He left before she could respond. Left her alone in the library with a truth that had shattered one dream while fulfilling another. She had a family, a real family, connected by blood and history and obligation. She just couldn't have the man who'd made her believe in happy endings. The days that followed were agony wrapped in silk. Lucia wept when she learned the truth. Wept and held Ren and called her nipote, granddaughter, with fierce possessiveness. The household shifted around her, treating her differently. Not as a guest anymore, as family, as someone who belonged. But Nico kept his distance. He was polite, professional, present at meals and meetings, fulfilling his duty as head of the family. But the warmth was gone. The lingering looks, the almost smiles, the moments of connection that had been building between them, all of it vanished behind walls she couldn't breach. Ren told herself it was better this way. Told herself the feelings had been foolish, inappropriate, doomed from the start. They were siblings. Whatever had been growing between them was wrong, impossible, forbidden by every law of nature and society. But her heart didn't care about laws. Her heart still stuttered when he walked into a room, still ached when he looked through her instead of at her, still wanted things it had no right to want. "He's struggling," Lucia said one afternoon, finding Ren in the garden. "More than he shows?" "I don't know what you mean." "Don't lie to me, child. I've watched you both dance around each other for weeks. I saw what was growing before the test results came." Lucia's eyes were kind but unflinching. This is hard for him too. Harder maybe because he's used to controlling everything and he can't control this. "There's nothing to control. We're siblings. That's the end of it." "Is it?" Lucia's question hung in the air. "I've lived long enough to know that family is more than blood, that the heart doesn't always follow rules." She took Ren's hands. "I'm not saying anything should happen between you. I'm saying that pretending the feelings don't exist won't make them disappear. It will only make you both miserable." Before Ren could respond, shouting erupted from the house. She ran without thinking. Through the garden, up the terrace steps, into the main hall where men were gathered around something on the floor. Not something. Someone. Marco, one of Nico's lieutenants, lay in a pool of blood. His chest had been carved open, a message written in wounds that made Ren's hospice-trained stomach lurch. "The daughter for the father's sins." "Victor knows." Nico's voice was ice. He stood over the body, his face carved from stone. "He knows who you are. He knows you're here." "How?" Someone talked. Someone always talks. His eyes found hers and she saw fury there. Fury and fear and something else. Something he was fighting hard to suppress. "He's coming for you, Ren. Not because of what your mother witnessed. Because of who your father was." "I don't understand." "My father destroyed Victor's first operation, 20 years ago, before you were born. Cost him millions, killed his best men, humiliated him in front of the entire organization." Nico's jaw clenched. "Victor's been waiting for revenge ever since. He killed my father. He killed my sister. And now? Now he wants to kill me. Over my dead body." The words were savage, torn from somewhere deep. "I've already lost too much family to that monster. I won't lose you too." The declaration shouldn't have meant so much. Shouldn't have warmed her despite the horror of the moment. But it did. Because for all that had changed between them, for all the distance and the awkwardness and the forbidden feelings neither would name, he was still willing to die for her. And she was terrified to discover she would do the same for him. The attack came 3 days later. Not at the estate. Victor was too smart for a frontal assault on a fortified position. He struck where they were weakest, where Ren was weakest, the hospice facility. She was visiting her grandmother when the alarms started. One moment she was sitting by the window, holding a weathered hand, humming the old songs that sometimes sparked recognition. The next, gunfire erupted in the hallway, and the world dissolved into chaos. "Stay here." She pressed her grandmother's hand, knowing the words meant nothing, knowing the woman who'd helped raise her was lost in memories decades old. "Stay quiet, I'll come back." The hallway was smoke and screaming, staff running in every direction, patients crying out in confusion. Ren's hospice training kicked in. Triage mode, assess the situation, identify the threats. 3 men in black, moving methodically through the facility. not shooting randomly, searching, checking faces, kicking open doors, looking for her. She ducked into a supply closet, heart hammering, mind racing. Her phone was in her grandmother's room. No way to call for help. The men were between her and the exit. And somewhere in this building, dozens of vulnerable patients were in the crossfire of a war they didn't even know existed. Think! Think! She was a hospice worker. She knew this building. Every corridor, every shortcut, every supply closet and service entrance. She knew where the panic rooms were, installed after a scare years ago. She knew how to move through these halls without being seen. And she knew something else. Something her years of reading dying patients had taught her. People revealed themselves when they thought no one was watching. Wren crept through service corridors, tracking the gunmen by their voices. They were speaking Italian, assuming perhaps that no one in a New Jersey hospice facility would understand. They assumed wrong. Said she'd be in room 314, the old woman's room. She's not there, just the grandmother. Then we take the grandmother. Bring her out. The girl will come. Wren's blood turned to ice. They were going to use her grandmother as bait. Drag a woman with dementia into the middle of a firefight to draw her out. She couldn't let that happen. The plan formed even as she moved. Desperate, reckless, probably suicidal. But she'd spent 19 years surviving against impossible odds. She'd learned that sometimes the only way out was through. She found the fire alarm first, pulled it, filling the building with shrieking noise and flashing lights. Chaos. Controlled chaos, the kind that would cover movement and create confusion. Then she circled back to her grandmother's room, approaching from the service entrance the gunman didn't know about. Her grandmother sat exactly where Wren had left her, seemingly oblivious to the alarms and the screaming. One gunman stood by the door, weapon ready, waiting for his partners to bring their prey. Wren watched him through the crack in the service door. Read his body language the way she'd read 1,000 dying patients. The tension in his shoulders, the way his weight shifted, the particular alertness of someone expecting a threat from the main entrance. He wasn't expecting a threat from behind. She moved before she could talk herself out of it. The IV pole from the service hallway was heavy in her hands. Not a weapon, exactly, but enough to cause damage if she swung hard enough. She swung hard enough. The gunman went down with a grunt, his weapon clattering across the floor. Wren kicked it away, grabbed her grandmother's wheelchair, and ran. The hallways were chaos. Patients being evacuated, staff shouting instructions, the controlled pandemonium of emergency protocols. Wren pushed through it all, steering toward the back exit, praying she could reach the parking lot before. There! 2 more gunmen, emerging from a stairwell. Weapons raised, eyes locked on her. Wren shoved her grandmother's wheelchair toward a cluster of nurses. Get her out! Now! Then she ran in the opposite direction. She made it 30 feet before they caught her. The impact drove the breath from her lungs, a tackle from behind, her body hitting the floor hard enough to see stars. Hands grabbed her, dragged her upright, pressed a gun to her temple. Got her! The gunman's voice was satisfied. Call it in. Tell them we have the Caruso bitch. They dragged her outside, into a waiting vehicle, and the world went dark. She woke in a warehouse. Typical, she thought with hysterical detachment. Every crime story she'd ever watched had a warehouse scene. At least Victor Corsetti was committed to the aesthetic. Ah, the lost daughter awakens. The voice came from shadows, smooth, cultured, with an accent that spoke of old money and older sins. A figure emerged, and Wren saw Victor Corsetti for the first time. He was older than she'd expected. Silver-haired, elegant, the kind of man who'd look at home in a boardroom or a black-tie gala. But his eyes were wrong, cold and flat, like something crucial had been removed from behind them. You have your mother's face. He circled her chair, studying her the way a collector might study an acquisition. Elena, I remember her well. Such a pretty thing. Such a terrible witness. You killed your own brother. I removed an obstacle. Victor shrugged, indifferent. Antonio was weak, sentimental. He would have destroyed everything our family built. I simply accelerated the inevitable. And my mother? Was she an obstacle too? Your mother was a loose end. One that got away, unfortunately. His eyes narrowed. But her daughter walked right into my hands. The universe does have a sense of humor. What do you want? Want? Victor laughed, a hollow, chilling sound. I want Nico Caruso broken. I want him to watch everything he loves turn to ash. I killed his father, his sister. And now? He leaned close, his breath hot on her face. Now I'll kill his precious newfound sibling. Let him know what it feels like to lose family again and again. He'll come for me. I'm counting on it. Victor's smile was a knife. I've planned this for months, dear girl. The DNA test, the revelation, the chaos it caused in their household. All by design. Ren's heart stopped. The DNA test? Did you really think a sample in a private database would stay untouched? Victor's laugh was cruel. I have people everywhere. When I learned you existed, that Elena's daughter had surfaced, I saw an opportunity, a chance to destroy Nico from the inside. He traced a finger along her jaw, and she fought not to flinch. The test results were fabricated. You're not his sister. But he believes you are. And that belief has been eating him alive for weeks. The world tilted. Not siblings. Never siblings. The test had been a lie. Victor's lie, designed to weaponize her against the family that had taken her in. I've watched him, you know. Watched how he looks at you. Even now. Even believing you're his blood. Victor's voice dripped with satisfaction. Love makes people weak, and Nico Caruso has never been weaker. He'll kill you for this. He'll try. Victor stepped back, checking his watch. But first he'll come charging in to rescue his sister who isn't. He'll walk into my trap because he can't bear to lose another family member. And then... The wall exploded. Ren threw herself sideways as debris rained down, as gunfire erupted from every direction, as the warehouse transformed into a war zone. She hit the ground hard, covering her head, trying to make sense of the chaos. Through the smoke, she saw him. Nico moved like death incarnate, fluid, precise, devastating. His men poured through the breach behind him, but he was already ahead, already cutting through Victor's forces with a ferocity that made Ren's breath catch. Get her out! His voice carried over the gunfire. Get her out now! Hands grabbed her, friendly hands this time, pulling her toward the breach, toward safety. But Victor was running too, fleeing through a back exit, and Ren saw Nico's attention split, her or his revenge. Go! She screamed. I'm fine. Go! He hesitated. One terrible moment where she saw the war in his eyes, the need to keep her safe versus the need to end the man who'd destroyed his family. Nico, go. Finish it. He went. They pulled her out into daylight, into chaos, into a world that had been upended yet again. She heard more gunfire, shouting. Then, finally, silence. When Nico emerged from the warehouse, his shirt was bloody and his face was stone. But his eyes found her immediately, drinking her in like water in a desert. You're hurt, she said. Not my blood. He crossed to her in 3 strides, his hands cupping her face with desperate gentleness. You're okay. Tell me you're okay. Victor, the DNA test. I know. His voice cracked. His man talked before he died. I know it was a lie. I know you're not... He stopped. Breathed. I know. He's dead? Victor? He'll never hurt anyone again. Nico's forehead pressed against hers. Ren, I thought I'd lost you. I thought you came for me. I would have torn this city apart to find you. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Sister or not, I would have come. Do you understand? Nothing would have stopped me. She understood. Understood everything. The weeks of distance. The agony of forbidden feelings. The relief now flooding through them both. I need to tell you something, she whispered. Something I've been fighting since the moment I met you. I know. His voice was raw. I've been fighting it too. I don't want to fight anymore. He kissed her then, finally, desperately, like a man who'd been dying of thirst and had finally found rain. Ren melted into him, all the fear and confusion and longing of the past weeks pouring out in a single perfect moment. Around them, the world was chaos and destruction. But here, in his arms, she'd finally found home. 3 months later, Ren finally learned the truth about her father. It came from an unexpected source, a letter found in Victor Corsetti's private safe during the cleanup of his empire. Yellowed with age, written in a hand Ren didn't recognize, addressed to a woman named Elena Gallagher. My dearest Elena, by the time you read this I will be gone. The sickness takes more of me each day, and I won't burden you with watching me fade. But I need you to know the truth. About me, about us, about the child you carry. My name is not Thomas, as I told you. I am Antonio Corsetti. Yes, that Corsetti. Victor's brother. I've spent my life trying to undo the evil my family has done, working in secret with the Caruso family to bring Victor down. I fell in love with you the moment I saw you in that restaurant, and I've been selfish enough to keep you close despite the danger. The Carusos will help you. Giovanni Caruso has been my ally for years. Go to him. Tell him Antonio sent you. He will protect you and our child. I'm sorry I won't be there to see you become a mother. I'm sorry our child will never know their father. But know this, you were the only good thing in a life spent fighting darkness. And our child will be proof that something beautiful can grow even in the shadow of monsters. All my love. Forever, Antonio. Ren read the letter 3 times before the words made sense. Her father wasn't Giovanni Caruso, wasn't Nico's father at all. Her father was Antonio Corsetti, Victor's brother. The man Victor had murdered for power, never knowing that his brother had left behind a child. She wasn't a Caruso by blood, but she wasn't a Corsetti either. Not really. She was the daughter of the one good man in a family of monsters, a man who'd tried to make amends, who'd loved her mother, who'd died before he could see her born. He was working with my father. Nico stood beside her, reading over her shoulder. All those years, Antonio was feeding us information, helping us build cases against Victor's operations. His voice was thick with something like wonder. He was a hero, Ren. Your father was a hero. He died before I was born. He died protecting your mother, protecting you. Nico's hand found hers. Victor must have discovered his betrayal. That's why he killed him. And when your mother witnessed the murder, she ran, just like Antonio wanted her to. The pieces fell into place like a puzzle finally completed. Her mother's terror. The photograph of a young Nico, not her father, but a beacon, a key to the family that had worked alongside her real father. The years of running, hiding, protecting a daughter who represented everything Antonio had hoped for. She never stopped loving him, Ren whispered. All those years she never told me about him because knowing could have gotten you killed. Nico's arm wrapped around her shoulders. She kept his secret to keep you safe. She carried that burden alone so you wouldn't have to. Ren thought of her mother, young, frightened, pregnant with a dead man's child and running from his murderer. She'd survived for 6 more years, had raised Ren with love and courage and the desperate hope that someday her daughter would find the family that had tried to help them. She was so brave, Ren said. I never knew how brave. You're her daughter. Nico pressed a kiss to her temple. Bravery runs in your blood. The months that followed were a revelation. With Victor dead and his empire dismantled, the danger that had shadowed Ren's existence finally lifted. She could walk outside without armed escorts, could visit her grandmother without fear of attacks, could breathe without waiting for the next disaster. She could love without barriers. The relationship with Nico unfolded slowly, carefully, both of them still healing from the weeks of forced distance, from believing they were siblings, from the agony of forbidden feelings they'd thought they'd have to bury forever. I tried so hard not to want you, Nico admitted one evening, standing with her on the terrace where they'd first acknowledged what was growing between them. After the DNA results, I told myself it was wrong, told myself I had to let you go. Did it work? Not even slightly. His smile was rueful. Every time I saw you, every time I heard your voice, I wanted you more. Even believing you were my sister, I couldn't stop. That must have been torture. It was hell. He pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her from behind. But it taught me something. What I feel for you isn't circumstantial, isn't based on convenience or timing or anything rational. I love you, Ren. I would have loved you even if it was impossible. Even if we could never be together. That doesn't change. You love me? Was there any doubt? She turned in his arms, looping her hands behind his neck. Say it again. I love you. He kissed her forehead. I love you. Her cheek. I love you. Her lips, soft and lingering. I'll say it as many times as you need to hear it. I might need to hear it a lot. Then I'll say it forever. Her grandmother died on a Tuesday in April. Peaceful, painless, surrounded by flowers and soft music and the granddaughter who had never stopped visiting, never stopped singing the old songs, never stopped loving the woman who'd forgotten her name, but not her face. In the end, there was a moment of clarity, a single heartbeat where fog lifted and recognition flickered in faded eyes. Ren. Her grandmother's voice was barely a whisper. My Ren. You found your wings. I found my wings, Grandma. Tears streamed down Ren's face. I found everything. Good. A smile, soft and distant. Your mother. She'd be so proud. Then she was gone, slipping away like a leaf on water, and Ren held her hand until the warmth faded. Nico found her in the garden afterward, sitting beneath a cherry tree that rained pink petals like blessings. He didn't say anything, just sat beside her, his shoulder against hers, his presence solid and warm and exactly what she needed. She remembered me, Ren said eventually. Right at the end, she said my name. Of course she did. Some things are stronger than forgetting. I used to think that was just a nice thing people said. Something to comfort families when their loved ones slipped away. She leaned into him, drawing strength from his warmth. But she held on. All those years of fog. And she held on just long enough to say goodbye. She was waiting for you to be safe. Nico's arm wrapped around her. She was waiting to know you'd be okay. You really believe that? I believe love is stronger than we understand. Stronger than memory. Stronger than death. He pressed a kiss to her hair. Your grandmother loved you enough to wait. Your mother loved you enough to run. Your father loved you enough to die protecting you before you were even born. His voice roughened. You've been loved your entire life, Ren. Fiercely and completely. Never doubt that. The proposal came 2 months later on a night when stars scattered across the sky like diamonds on velvet. They were at the estate. Her home now, truly, in ways she was still learning to accept. Nico had been acting strange all day, distracted and nervous in ways that were entirely unlike him. Lucia had been suspiciously absent, claiming headaches that vanished the moment Ren was out of sight. "You're planning something," Ren accused as they walked through the moonlit garden. "You've been terrible at hiding it." "I've been terrible at everything today." Nico stopped beside the fountain, moonlight silvering his features. "I had a speech prepared. Eloquent, romantic, the kind of thing you deserve. And? And I forgot every word of it the moment I saw you tonight." He laughed, running a hand through his hair. "You're wearing that dress, the blue one that matches your eyes. And I forgot how to be smooth." "I don't need smooth." Ren stepped closer, taking his hands. "I just need you." "You have me." His voice was raw. "You've had me since the moment you walked into my restaurant with that photograph. Desperate and brave and so beautiful it hurt to look at you." He sank to one knee, and Ren's heart stopped. "You've had me through everything. The fear and the lies and the weeks I thought I'd lost you before I ever truly had you. You've had me, Ren Gallagher, and you'll have me for the rest of my life if you'll let me." He pulled a box from his pocket. Inside, a ring. Sapphire surrounded by diamonds, antique and elegant, and clearly an heirloom. "This was my grandmother's," he said softly. "She gave it to my mother, who gave it to me with instructions to give it to someone worthy. Someone who would love me for who I am, not what I control." His eyes glistened. "I've never met anyone more worthy than you." "Nico, marry me, Ren. Not because I can protect you or provide for you, but because I love you more than I knew it was possible to love anyone. Marry me because every moment with you feels like coming home. Marry me because I can't imagine facing another day without knowing you'll be beside me." She was crying. Couldn't help it. The tears came freely, streaming down her face like rain after drought. "Yes." The word came out broken, beautiful. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slid the ring onto her finger and rose, sweeping her into his arms, kissing her until neither of them could breathe. The fountain splashed behind them. Somewhere in the house, Lucia was probably watching from a window, crying just as hard as Ren. "I love you," Ren said against his lips. "I've been wanting to say that for months." "Say it again." "I love you, Nico Caruso." Again. "I love you." She laughed through her tears. "I'll say it forever if you want." "I want." He pressed his forehead to hers. "Forever sounds just about right." The wedding was held in the garden of the Caruso estate, on an afternoon golden with late summer light. Ren wore her grandmother's lace veil, the one thing she'd managed to save through years of poverty, wrapped in tissue paper and hope. Lucia walked her down the aisle, weeping unashamedly, calling her nipote even though they shared no blood. Because Lucia was right. Family wasn't about blood. It was about who claimed you, and this family had claimed her completely. The vows were simple. The promises were forever. "You came to me looking for your father," Nico said, his hands clasped in hers. "And you found something else instead. You found me, found us, found a family that had been waiting for you without knowing it." His voice cracked. "I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that miracle." "I spent 19 years searching for a family," Ren replied. "I thought I knew what I was looking for. I was wrong." She smiled through her tears. "I wasn't looking for a father. I was looking for home. And I found it in you." When they kissed, the applause was thunderous. When they danced, the world faded away. Later, much later, Ren stood at the window of the bedroom she now shared with her husband and thought about the journey that had brought her here. A photograph. A desperate hope. A wrong turn that had led to the right destination. She'd spent her whole life searching for her father, only to discover that what she really needed was something else entirely. Not the past, but the future. Not a father, but a family. Not answers, but love. Nico's arms wrapped around her from behind, pulling her back against his chest. "What are you thinking?" he murmured. "About my mother, my grandmother, my father." She leaned into his warmth. "About all the people who loved me enough to bring me here." "And where is here?" She turned in his arms, looking up at the face she'd learned to love more than she'd thought possible. "Home," she said simply. "Finally. Forever home." He kissed her softly, and Wren felt the truth of it settle into her bones. After 19 years of searching, she'd found what she was looking for. Not in a photograph, not in a name, but in the arms of a man who'd taught her that family wasn't about blood. It was about choice, about claiming, about loving someone so fiercely that nothing else mattered. She'd asked a Mafia boss if he knew her father. She'd found something infinitely better instead. She'd found her home. Thank you so much for watching this story unfold. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support helps me continue creating content like this for you.